everyone. Welcome to another episode of Behind the Mic, the show where we talk to leaders and experts shaping the construction industry. Today I have with me a very special guest, Parmesh Venkateswaran. Thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure to have you on the studio today. How are you feeling?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me here.
So before we jump right into our conversation, I want to first introduce you to our viewers who are watching today and probably wondering who is this man behind the screen and behind the mic today. So could you give us an overview of yourself as well as the company that you represent?
Great. My name is Parmesh Venkateswaran. I am the general manager for Stanley Black Decker. Stanley Black Decker is an American company based out of Connecticut. We are a global leader in tools and outdoor. Here in the Middle East, we're based out of UAE in Jafza, and we've been around for actually over 4 decades, and we've actively participated in the growth story of UAE and a lot of other countries here in the Middle East. We have powerhouse brands that you might have heard of, like DeWalt, Stanley, and Black Decker as well.
I think that's the brand that everyone would know about.
Yes, Black Decker should be a household name.
Yeah.
You'll find it in Carrefour, on Amazon, most of the retailers around the region. So yeah, this is who we are, and I'm really proud to be part of this company. I've been in this region for over 8 years and really seen kind of the growth story, of the company around the setting of the growth of the Middle East as a region.
Perfect.
So it's really exciting.
On the show, you're definitely one of the first people from the supply set that we have, and it's going to be interesting to see what your role is in the overall construction industry. So moving on, I want to talk about your presence in the Middle East region, because the Middle East, especially the UAE, is a region of change, and we're seeing a lot of changes happening, not just in technologies, but also in the way that we adapt to these projects and big mega projects, giga projects happening. So where does Stanley Black Decker sort of fit itself in such a growing market?
Yeah, so just stepping back, we're based here in UAE, but Stanley Black Decker actually caters to 20 different markets out of here. When I say markets, it's countries in Middle East and Africa. Now going to your question in terms of what role we play, we really like to play a consultative role through the value chain that we operate in. What do I mean by that? So let's take, for example, the big construction projects or the contractors. Although we're a supplier, we just don't stop at that. We have teams that are on the ground on a daily basis at these projects. What are they doing? First of all, they're trying to understand the needs and the pain points of this project, of these projects, and try to see what kind of solutions we can provide that can make their life easy. We work with their health and safety department to educate the safety managers, but also the construction workers on the safe usage of tool, preventive maintenance of the tool, and also give them solutions that allow them to be more productive and efficient with the tools. So that's part of the construction project, but then we also take a consultative role in terms of our own channel partners. So we usually look to see what kind of activity is going on in the region and how should our channel partners build their own capabilities, how should our after-sales partners build their capabilities to cater to these projects. So in a nutshell, essentially, we are kind of play a very consultative role in this whole ecosystem.
Yeah, that's interesting, because usually when, looking at it from an outside point of view, when we talk about tools and construction tools, we only think about the supply coming in and not exactly the consultative nature of it. So that's really interesting. And just to add to that and for you to also elaborate on, on the company, can you talk about some innovative sort of initiatives that the company has been undertaking in the past few years? And what is it, and what do you think is, you guys have been doing right?
Yeah, so I think innovation is definitely in our DNA, and without having that innovation as a central pillar, it's hard for us to be a global leader in tools. But the good thing is that innovation is born out of strong insights, right? So the insights are coming from the ground, we feed that through, and then through a strong research and development process, we're able to build tools and innovative solutions that's very relevant to the construction industry. So that's specifically, I think, a very core pillar in what we do. But in innovation, I want to focus around battery technology, right? Because one of the things that we're really interested in is trying to move the job site to a cordless job site, right? And you might be wondering, why is it so important for us to move to being a cordless job site? Now, if you're on a job site, you will see that, first of all, there's cords and equipment that's just essentially all over the different projects. And these are things that people have to basically lug from project to project. Now, with cordless, you make it basically easy for people on the job site. It's also safer because you don't have things on the ground, so it's as simple as that. Now, so that's really one of the innovation pillars that we're looking to drive in this region, is to kind of build that cordless job site, job site of the future.
Yeah. And how important is it to become a consultant at this? I'm sure this is a stage where a project is just becoming or just developing. How important is this stage for the success of any project?
I think we get in very early in the project, and that's the best time to do that, because you are then able to essentially work with the different stakeholders within the construction companies. You're able to educate them about what kind of value you can add, and then it's more of a long-term relationship that you build with them. So for me, if you want to use the consultative approach, you need to get in early in the project. You really need to understand the pain points and the objectives of the projects to be able to deliver value.
Great. I think I have a good understanding now of what you guys do. And moving on, I want to talk about the outlook and the vision that the company kind of looks into in the future. So according to you, how do you see the role of Stanley Black Decker sort of evolving in the market? You've mentioned about all the innovations happening. You mentioned how important it is to integrate this at the beginning stages. But let's say once everything is set into place, what are some benefits that construction companies and other stakeholders can expect to see?
So I think the way I see our role and the expectation that I want to have, I want the construction companies to have, is around supporting them in creating this cordless job site of the future. I know that it's going to take us time, but we clearly see the future value in it, not just for ourselves, but actually for the construction projects. And we're going to lead them through that process. That's one very important thing. The second thing is our role in terms of upskilling the workers. And we don't really call them construction workers. In our language, we call them makers, because they're so important to the ethos of who we are as a company. So empowering these makers, upskilling these makers, making sure that they have a safe environment to work in. There is safe usage of tools. So that's the third part. And that's the second part. And the third part is actually for us to provide a total job site solution. We don't want the construction companies to view us as someone that is a supplier of tools. We want to be the total job site solution provider. So providing the tools, providing after-sales solution, being a consultant in terms of innovative technology that they can apply on their job site. That's how we want them to view us.
Great. And I know you mentioned how I really like when you call them makers, because I think that's one thing a lot of stakeholders forget, that these the workers are actually the base, the backbone of any project, and that I really appreciate that. And it's something we also like to advocate on the show and in our brand. And I want to touch upon that a little bit more. In terms of upskilling these workers, what are some, support given by the company to enable more learning to happen? Is it on-the-job learning? Is there a specific training session that these workers go through? How is the process like?
Yeah, so we actually do over 400 hours of training on job sites. These are usually organized with the health and safety managers, the project managers, any setting can have 100 or 100 plus workers or makers, in one particular session. These are extensive sessions where we talk about how to use the tools, safe usage of tools, and then safe practices on the job site. So really for us, this is a key pillar. And now we're looking to actually extend this, not just stop at training. We want to also start to certify these workers as they go through these trainings. We want to actually partner with the government to have a formal certification process. If in UAE government and even other governments are really talking about labor welfare and safety as a top point on their agenda, right? And so I think there is a role we can play. There is a role we have been playing, but we did this because it's part of our ethos. But I think we can scale this up. We can really work with governments and help them understand the role that we can play in this whole process.
Yeah, and I agree. I think the Middle East is the best region to test this out because there are a lot of new developments happening. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the construction industry here in this region is probably one of the most known for the amount of workers coming in from different countries. And it's really important to sort of educate them from the beginning on how to use tools, because what I've noticed, especially working in this industry, is there's so much change happening and technology keeps one-upping itself. And the idea of innovation is great, but I think it's also important to look at just sort of how people will use it, because for us, we have the internet to look at these things. But I think for the makers of these projects, they really need to be sat down and kind of shown the importance of it. So,
yeah, and I think innovation that arises from specific needs are really true innovation. It's not innovation that looks good in terms of a product or in terms of a design, but it has to really meet a certain need. And that's where we're very close to our makers, because that kind of feeds all the insights that goes into the innovation process.
It's kind of all about filling the gap of what needs to be done. So, Parmesh, you've mentioned that Stanley Black Decker has been around for 4 decades now. So could you tell us some milestones and significant achievements that you've done in this period of time?
Yeah, so over the 4 decades, we've really played an active role in terms of participating as one of the stakeholders on the urban construction and the development that's happened around UAE, Saudi, Qatar, all of these other countries. So as examples, we've been part of marquee projects like the Burj Khalifa, Dubai Metro. Even on the Expo 2020 side, we're very active, so much so that we actually had our own service container there just to make sure that we met the aggressive timelines of Expo 2020. But we don't stop there now. I mean, with the growth of Saudi, we're there in NEOM, we're there in Roshan, right? We played an active part in the Qatar World Cup. So one of the things we really take pride in is playing a small part in these different regions as they grow. But also one of the other things that I'm really proud of, the DIY culture and the DIY movement is still something that's very emerging and nascent, and we're playing an active role with our partner Amazon, where together we communicate about DIY. Now you might ask me, why is DIY important? Because it brings families together. It brings families together in terms of doing a project. It gets people more involved in doing things in their household. So on one side, a very active role in urban construction, but even in your homes, bringing the DIY culture. So we're really proud of the small part that we're playing in these different things.
Now let's switch gears here a little bit, and I want to talk about a topic that a lot of people during the show talk about, and it's sustainability. And in terms of supply chain and all of these, sustainability is still not the forefront, which I think should be. So what are your thoughts on incorporating green solutions in not just your products, but the sort of production of these certain tools?
Yeah. So when we look at sustainability as a manufacturing company, as a product company, we look at total product lifecycle management, right? So it's what we put into our tools, but also For example, how long can you use those tools? Because that's also a very important sustainable element, right? You want those tools to last. You want to make sure that they are taken care of. The preventive maintenance, the maintenance of the tool extends the longevity of the product life.
Yeah, it's an investment after all.
And it's also important what happens after it. So there are three different aspects that we're looking at. We're looking at the product itself, product design, and what can we do. So we have a tool, for example, that's not used on construction sites, but used in homes called Reviva. The casing of that power tool is actually made out of recycled plastic bottles, right? It's a very successful product, and this is something that is teaching us how we can start to use recycled materials to build it. We're looking at our packaging of the product, eliminating waste, making sure we're using more sustainable packaging, right? And then even in our transportation, we're making sure that there's a sustainable efficiency that's brought in. So that's that. Then the product lifecycle management. Most of our tools are made for the most demanding, toughest makers and professionals. Our tools can last 4, 5, 6 years, can be used on one project, move to another project site, and we really take a lot of pride if our tools continue to get used, right? And then also we try to work to see how those tools are disposed of. So we're looking at total product lifecycle management.
And do you think there's enough sort of, let's say you work with a stakeholder, and do they know the importance of having sustainable tools, or is it something that you have to sort of educate them in doing?
I think really, to be honest, sustainability is in a very nascent stage in this region. The awareness is there, the recognition that we all have to take care of the environment, it's there. But I think there is still an education process. There is, we have to walk the talk, right? So we're doing our part. There's more we need to do, but I think every stakeholder really has to get up and see what part they can play, because absolutely there's things we can do from a sustainability standpoint, even on a daily basis.
Yeah, I agree. And the construction industry is known to be one of the industry that really contributes to, unfortunately, a lot of waste. Globally, I believe it's 11% of the global wastage comes from construction. So it's really interesting to see brands and companies and entities sort of working together to create a more circular industry. Right, so just to end today's conversation, I wanted to ask you, how do you see the company moving forward in this region? What's next for Stanley Black Decker?
I think we're at a really exciting juncture, right? I mean, of course, we went through the wave of COVID, but it seems like this region has come out so strong. I mean, you read the news, you read the global news, everyone is talking about UAE Vision 2040, the KSA Vision 2030, even markets like Iraq, they're rebuilding, So it's an exciting juncture for us. What we've done is to understand what role we can play. We have taken the insights and we understand the heat map of activity that's happening across the region, right? And that's important because we have to lay out some long-term plans for ourselves from a business model standpoint, from an innovation standpoint, from an organization standpoint. But we also need to work with other stakeholders in the value chain, like our channel partners, like our after-sales partners, to make sure they build their capabilities, because we're seeing a beehive of activity. The amount of funding that's going into urban construction in this region. There's a lot of also investment going in non-construction related industry like aviation, we're talking about automotive, the first EV plant potentially in Saudi. So we're kind of gearing up for this because we have a lot of brands other than DeWalt that can cater to these industries as well. We have Proto for oil and gas. We have Facom for automotive and aerospace. We have Stanley for the tradesmen of the world, that are going to do the maintenance of all the facilities that are coming up, right? And then of course, we also are in your homes, we're in your yards. So there's a lot of work we have to do. We're excited about it. I know that our channel partners are excited about it. We just want to play an active role in, the government's visions that we believe is very exciting future for the whole Middle East region.
Yeah, I think it's truly an exciting time for every industry, not just construction industry. But before I wrap this up, I want to ask you, from a recruitment perspective and from your side, what do you look for in young professionals trying to get into the market?
Yeah. So one of the main things that I always look for is the entrepreneurial spirit. We look for skills, but we believe that skills is also something that can be acquired on the job. But what we want is, especially in a region like this that is expanding so fast, you know, you have different dynamics on a daily basis. We want entrepreneurial people that say, hey, we understand that this is the job in front of us and we will do it in the best way we can. If we don't know how to do it, we will go find solutions. So the solution mindset is really what we look for when we're recruiting people.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I think you wrapped it up really nicely. I think we're really excited to see what the company has to offer in the next few years, and it's going to be a busy next few years, hopefully. Thank you everyone for tuning in with us today. Parmesh, again, thank you for being on the show. It's always great to talk to an expert who kind of has a thing or two to say about the industry. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel, and also comment your thoughts on our conversation today. This has been reporter Julian Tolentino. Until next time.